to garden season at Timber Creek Farm. I'm actually in my backyard working on some of our yard beds. We put in raised bed or box gardens last year, and we had a phenomenal harvest from these boxes. I'll show you, there's not that many, but we certainly used every inch. Because things were going so well, we added more. So we have another small raised bed here. So these two are next to each other with a baby plum tree in the middle and our strawberry boxes surrounding them. Then we put in this big box, which is twice as big. I'll put the actual measurements for these boxes in the show notes. This one I used all winter to grow greens, carrots, and radishes. Over here we had another box, which we didn't put in till later. And at that point, the tree was fully leafed out above it, and it didn't get enough sun. But since I'm going to plant greens in it first thing this year, some carrots and some radishes, it'll work out quite well. By the time I'm ready to harvest those, the tree will be fully leafed and I won't have to worry about it, and I can just continue to grow herbs in there. Right now I still have comfrey, lemon balm, woad, and some other things coming up from last year. And then in front of that last raised bed, we put in extra soil and we kind of did an above ground garden, but did not have a border around it. And last fall, I put my garlic in here. Since we did not have much of a winter, my garlic is really tall already in the middle of March and has already started to grow bulbs. Surrounding that area, I just put in some planters for extra growing space. There was one over there too, but I moved it in the winter. So you might be wondering what you can grow in a raised bed. Pretty much almost anything that you can grow in a row in a regular traditional garden. Some of the things I concentrate on here are what we like to have best. I love to grow carrots, and they do really well in a raised bed situation. All the different kinds of greens, beets, radishes, and I'm going to be doing more peas this year than beans, just because I like to switch things up every now and then. This is the kale that's been in here all winter, and it's just going crazy right now since it's gotten quite warm. I've had to pinch it back quite a few times because it's trying to go to seed in the middle of March. Back here is one of the cold frames that I put together. It's basically an old window frame with a sheet of plastic stapled to it. That gave the garden beds just enough extra warmth if we had a really cold spell, which we had very little of last year, but it's always good to be prepared. Okay, back to the first bed that we have. Most of the time, people will recommend that you use a wood with a high longevity rating, such as cedar, which can be a little bit pricey, or redwood and locust are other species that are going to live, not rot as quickly as what we have here. But we have a sawmill, and so we use what we have available. These are pine boards, which will not have the longevity as some other woods, but it's what we had available. So the first thing to think about is what are you going to put in here. A lot of people will recommend that you start with some drainage material, such as some stones or medium-sized rocks for drainage. I did not do that. We put in some of our less rich soil in the bottom, topped it off with our composted manure and some material like leaf grow that we purchased from the nursery to give it extra nutrition. Another thing that I've seen people do is line their growing boxes with landscape fabric. I'm going to leave all that up to you. I'm kind of a no-frills gardener, so I have not done that, but I'm just going to throw that out there as another idea for you. If you look up or study soil composition for growing vegetables, a lot of times they will recommend that you have a 60% topsoil, 30% compost, and 10% like a growing mix or peat moss mix to start your garden with. Soil is quite heavy, so as an additional support for the boxes, these outside braces were pushed into the ground also. Just a simple scrap piece of wood. There are some factors when you are using raised bed gardens that you need to pay attention to that are slightly different than what happens when you plant in a traditional garden space. Your soil temp is going to be variable because the dirt is above ground, so you're going to need to check that. If it's too cold in the spring, then hold off until it warms up a little before you put in the tenders. And then in the summer you might notice that it dries out a lot quicker because it's above ground. So you might need to water more frequently with a raised bed garden. Mentioned was your tree cover. If you have a lot that has a lot of trees on it, look up and see where your best clearance is going to be before positioning your raised beds. I mentioned earlier that I can get away with these beds are in the ground now earlier than we had them last year, so I have the chance to plant some vegetables before it gets too hot and before the trees are fully leafed. The last thing I want to mention to you is the propensity that I think I have and a lot of people have to overcrowd their garden beds. So what you want to make sure of is that you leave plenty of space for growth. Look at the recommendations for spacing and make sure that you don't overcrowd. When we get those tiny little bedding plants, they look so small that we feel like we can get a whole lot in our gardens, but that's not the case. They take over pretty quickly. And last year I had a tomato bed that didn't start out to be a tomato bed. I had tomatoes at one end and I had squash at the other, and the squash just got run over by the tomatoes, and eventually I just had to pull it because it wasn't producing anything. So just be aware of that factor. What you can do instead of overcrowding your garden beds is you can rotate your crops. There's tons of information on what you can plant when on the internet and probably right here on YouTube. So I would just check on options of what you can plant after each other, things that you can plant together, and try to maximize your harvest that way by planting throughout the whole season instead of just a one-time shot. All right, well, I'm going to get back to work because I've got a lot of garden cleanup to do before I can get those seeds in. So go ahead and get started on your raised beds. I'll put all the directions for you and links in the show notes below, so you can check there and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for watching our videos. This video was produced as a collaboration with Homesteaders of America. We've produced a week-long series of videos on how to grow your own food and be more self-sufficient. We hope you'll check them all out at the Homesteaders of America YouTube channel, and just keep us in mind because we're here to help you, not just through trying times, not just at the conference, but anytime you have questions about homesteading topics.